You know, when you hear robots in medicine, your mind probably jumps to some kind of sci-fi movie, right? But here's the thing, that future, it isn't the future anymore. It's already here. The robots are in the room right now. Okay, let's dive into this and see how these machines are reshaping two very, very different corners of the medical world. So, what are these robots really for? I mean, are we trying to build the perfect surgeon, a machine with just unbelievable precision? Or are we aiming for something else entirely? A tireless companion, maybe, to tackle the growing crisis of loneliness? These two questions really send us down two completely distinct paths.
And that contrast, it really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? On one side, you've got your surgical robots. They're all about precision, assistance, and giving surgeons this almost superhuman level of control. But then, on the other hand, you have care robots, and they're designed for something completely different: companionship, emotional support, and social interaction. Totally different worlds, but they're both springing from the very same technological roots.
To figure out where all this is headed, we've got to look at where we are right now. And make no mistake, robots are already way more integrated into our healthcare system than you might think. We're talking everywhere from the most sterile operating rooms to the living rooms that they're being designed for. Yeah, this journey didn't just happen overnight. It really kicked off back in 1993 with a robot called ASOP, which was basically just a super steady robotic arm for holding a camera. Now, what's really fascinating here is the language, the way we talk about these things. By 2015, the FDA starts insisting on the term robotically assisted. Why? To make it absolutely crystal clear that a human surgeon is still the one calling all the shots. But then, since 2017, we've seen this surge in new devices that can actually perform certain tasks all by themselves. And that brings up a really big question. Who's actually in control? And that question, who's in control, it's so critical that regulators had to create a whole framework just to classify these machines. The best way to think about it is like a ladder of autonomy. With every rung you climb, control shifts a little bit more from the human over to the machine. So let's break this ladder down. Right now, there are 3 approved levels. Level 1 is pretty straightforward. The robot is basically just an extension of the surgeon's own hands, direct control all the time. But then you get to level 2, and the robot gets a little bit of independence. It can perform one specific pre-programmed task on its own. Now, level 3, conditional autonomy. This is where things get really interesting. The robot can actually plan a procedure using the patient's data. The surgeon's role completely shifts from being the hands-on operator to more of a high-stakes supervisor. It changes the whole job. Okay, so with all that in mind, just how autonomous are the robots in operating rooms today? Well, this chart tells the whole story. A whopping 86% are still level 1 systems. That means they are completely controlled by surgeons. Only a tiny fraction, about 14% if you add it up, have any ability to perform tasks or plan on their own. So yeah, autonomy is on the rise, but for now, the surgeon is still very much the pilot in the cockpit.
All right, let's completely switch gears. We're going to leave the cold, precise world of the operating room and step into a much more personal space: our homes. Because when we start talking about care robots for the elderly, the questions change dramatically. It's no longer about how well does it perform a task, it's about how does it make a person feel. Just listen to this. This quote is from someone in a focus group, and it gets right to the very heart of the hope behind these care robots. It's not about complex tasks. It's about presence. It's about that deep human desire to wake up in the morning and just not feel so alone. But for all that hope, there's this equally profound fear. The worry that the same technology that's meant to bring comfort it could become a tool of control. This participant voices a really deep-seated anxiety, the fear that the robot won't be there to serve them, but to serve whoever programmed it, essentially stripping them of their own agency. And this push and pull, this tension, you see it again and again. For every single hope, there's a matching fear. People want companionship, but they're terrified of being spied on. They want help remembering their meds, but they're scared of losing all their personal privacy. They want help, but they absolutely do not want to lose their independence or their own abilities in the process. It's an incredibly delicate balance that designers have to strike.
So, you see, the path forward here isn't as simple as just building better tech. No way. It's about navigating some really tough, real-world obstacles. We're talking staggering costs, tricky regulatory loopholes, and what is basically a minefield of ethical questions.
First up, let's just talk about the money, this sticker shock. The average annual cost to get a care robot set up and running in a home is estimated to be around $85,000. That is a huge number. But you have to ask, how does that stack up against the alternative? Well, get this. The average yearly cost for a full-time human caregiver is about $75,000. So they're surprisingly close, right? But it is not a simple choice. One gives you 24/7 assistance, but it just doesn't have that human touch. The other provides that absolutely essential emotional connection, but, they need breaks, they need time off. The costs are in the same ballpark, but what you're actually getting for your money, they're worlds apart. Okay, beyond the cost, there's this really serious regulatory problem, and it has a kind of weird name, predicate creep. And this is a really big deal. Here's how it works. A device gets approved for one small minor update. Then it gets another small update approved, and another. Over time, all these tiny changes can stack up and turn that simple device into a massively complex autonomous machine, one that never had to go through the really tough safety review a brand new device would. It's basically a loophole for how complexity can sneak onto the market way faster than our safety rules can keep up. And all of this leads us to these massive, unanswered ethical questions that, frankly, we all need to be thinking about. Like, if an autonomous robot makes a mistake, who's legally responsible? The surgeon, the hospital, the manufacturer? And who gets to see all the sensitive data a care robot collects? A family member? A doctor? Should a robot ever be programmed to disobey its owner if it thinks a command is harmful? These aren't tech problems. They're deeply human problems, and we do not have the answers yet. So here we are, standing at a major crossroads. We have this incredible technology, and we can build these amazing machines. But now we have to make some really fundamental choices about what we truly want them to be. The design decisions we make today are absolutely going to shape our future. And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. It's the one that's been humming underneath everything we've talked about, from the steely precision of a surgical arm to the quiet, comforting presence of a companion. As we build this robotic future, what is our ultimate goal? Are we simply solving for a task, or are we truly caring for a person?